Hey, y'all. This is Frank the Bigfoot, and you're listening to the Paranormal Punchers.
Hey, friends. Welcome to Paranormal Punchers. I'm Mark.
I'm Alicia.
I'm Nash.
No, Dave. He'll be back soon, I promise.
Yeah.
When he finishes his job at Hollow Earth, he'll be
Right.
back.
Well, his kids are also in the soccer league, the Hollow Earth Soccer League.
Oh,
Right.
nice.
So, and I hear their season's about to come to an end.
Yeah.
I
So,
wonder what the seasons look like down there.
I don't know.
if you're new to the show, we talk about all things paranormal with a lighthearted approach. And we got a running gag that when Dave's not here, he's somewhere in the Hollow Earth.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, this is a gag?
Oh, wait, no, it's not.
Oh, wait, hold on.
On this episode, we're going to talk about the Ouija board.
Right.
Ouija?
Yeah.
OEJ?
This topic was inspired by, let's see, was 2 episodes ago or 3 episodes ago, Scared in Ohio.
Yeah.
Right.
He was messing with the Ouija board and things got a little crazy. So we thought, well, let's explore this more. What about the Ouija board phenomenon?
Let's go.
Before we get there, as always, we have listener feedback. But I'd also like to say big shout out here to Nash because beer from my Bigfoot is on tap right now at Mood Duck Brewery, and it's delicious.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it came out great. I'm glad that the coffee, was still subtle, and overpowered the coconut. I was worried the coconut would be a little too strong
Yeah.
in the beer, but
Yeah.
I enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. It was, it's a yummy beer. I enjoyed making it.
Yeah, and it's only like, 4.8?
4 point, it's either 4.5 or 4.8, something like that.
So that's a session. You could just
Yeah.
literally sit around
yeah.
on a sunny day and just slam a couple and
yeah.
not be an idiot.
Put your feet up and have a few 2 or 3, 4, 5, whatever. And keep on going.
It's awesome. Yeah, thanks to Moo Duck for helping you brew a big old batch of that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad it really came out nice. We actually we were there recently, and people were complimenting, so I was really happy. That kind of stuff makes me feel great. It's great.
And we got a T-shirt. Mm-hmm. You can get it at our TeePublic store. Just go to TeePublic, look us up, or go to our website and click the link. You can get your very own Beer from My Bigfoot T-shirt.
And we were already even possibly coming up with the next big thing.
Yeah, I think we definitely we were getting the recipe down a little bit in our discussion.
Doing some brainstorming.
Today.
Yeah.
I tentatively, it's going to have something to do with the Chupacabra, the title.
Yeah. Yeah.
It won't be Beer from My Chupacabra,
No.
Nah.
but
No.
probably close, like Cerveza de la Chupacabra.
Yeah, something like that.
Because that's how clever.
It could be a little spicy. You never know. We'll see.
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
I know it.
And Dave, because Dave got a brew kit, like we can start pumping out some crazy beers.
That's right.
As long as none of them are pumpkin related.
Yeah.
Pumpkin doesn't need to be in everything when October hits,
I know.
especially beer.
Especially beer, yeah.
All right, we got some listener feedback brought to you this time by Moses Family Jerky. They have beef jerky, turkey jerky, beef sticks, and even coffee, which I don't know if you guys know, there might be a coffee named after us
Yep.
Oh.
in our future.
Oh, wow.
I'll keep you posted.
I thought you were going to say a coffee jerky, but I'm glad you didn't.
Right,
Yeah. That'd be weird.
right.
That would be weird.
Yeah. And if you use our promo code SpookyJerky15, you can save 15% on everything. It's awesome. They're great people. They make great jerky
They
And
do.
coffee.
and coffee
right.
and beef sticks.
That's right.
All right, here we go. First one here is from Michelle, Lewistown Printworks. You guys know her. Listening to your cast, did you know there is an underground mountain base not that far? It's called Raven Rock. It was a setting in the sci-fi movie Oblivion as a place for an underground resistance against an alien invasion. It's only about an hour from Lancaster, I believe. and she has hashtag Raid Raven Rock. So, yeah, I looked it up quick. Again, thanks, Michelle.
Yeah.
And it's in Fairfield, Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
Wow.
So
far.
that's really not that far. It's called Raven Rock Mountain Complex. And I pulled this from an article on the internet. I found it all, on the internet, of course. The Cold War era underground Pentagon is a sprawling subterranean hideaway for the Defense Department.
Wow.
It says, hypothetically, it's a self-sufficient community with 2 underground reservoirs, a power plant, food reserves, and its own fully stocked bar.
Wow.
Wow. Holy moly.
Right?
Whoa.
I mean, that should be that's where we should live.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
When the apocalypse happens, that's where I would.
That's where you're going to be knocking on the door. Hey,
Let me in.
let me in.
So, are we going to Naruto run at Raven Rock?
Have you ever tried to run like that? It's kind
Yeah,
of
it's not
tough.
that- yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
It's funny.
It's funny to watch,
But-
but if you fall, man, you eat it right in your face.
Oof.
But wow, Raven Rock, huh?
Yeah.
That would be really, really cool. I didn't even think that was nearby. I thought that was a
Yeah.
completely fictional place. Huh.
Nope. Hashtag Raid Raven Rock. Get that trending.
That's right. That's right.
And we'll go out and see what happens to us.
That's right. So there'll be 6 people sitting out in front out there going, "Hey, let us in."
Thanks, Michelle. We heard from Ryan. Really enjoying the show. I also co-host a podcast, Creepy Campfire Podcast. I like to check out the shows that pop up under suggested section on our page. You guys happen to be there, and I'm glad I did. We just finished a 2-parter on the Mothman, so I had to jump on your recent Injured Cold episode that you did, and I liked your theories on Cold and his people. The fixation on Cold asking about Woody's job had me cracking up. I like to use our show to promote other quality podcasts. If you happen to have a promo, feel free to send it over. Well, and I did. I sent them our promo, and we're going to also play their promo
Yeah.
and maybe do a little collaborative episode in the future. So, Ryan and everybody at Creepy Campfire Podcast, thank you so much for listening to our show. Can't wait to check out your show. And can't wait to hang out and do a massive
Definitely.
paranormal awesomeness episode.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Let's see. We heard from Cameron G. This looks like a Twitter. As usual, I really enjoyed this episode of Pea Punchers. I've been listening to the podcast for a while, and I've listened to all the episodes once, if not more than twice. Got to say, my favorite episode is number 8 about the black-eyed children. And it was awesome to hear that come up again. That's in reference to the episode with John Olson. Mm-hmm. We talked about the black-eyed children.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and I really want to revisit that topic. I think there's so much that we missed,
Yeah.
obviously.
Right.
There's a lot that can be covered in that subject.
Oh, yeah.
It really is.
So, I mean, we're kicking around a series called Revisited because I have so much more to talk about when it comes to the Dyatlov Pass.
Right.
Oof.
I like to
Yeah.
talk about the black-eyed children again. So we might need to kick that up and get that rolling. So thanks, Cameron. Let's see. We heard from, this is Andy. Gold Andy. Andy from California. We met her. So this was in reference to a post on our Bigfoot episode. No, this is something from the John Olson episode, which we did talk about Bigfoot. Irregardless, Andy said, in the event of having to camp in the Bigfoot forest, I'm on Team Nash. Nash should write a Bigfoot survival guide. That's right. My brain was forgetting there for a second. But that's when you had a whole theory of peeing on the outskirts of your
Yeah,
camp and
I'm
then
telling
shaving your body.
And putting the hair around the outside so in case they smelled it, they wouldn't come by. I'm telling you.
Andy, trust me. You don't want him to write a Bigfoot survival guide. You know why Bigfoot wouldn't come around to camp? Because it's going to smell like pee.
That's right.
It's going to smell like Nash urine and body hair. Like, of course, nothing's going to come around the camp.
But those are just the smells of Christmas at our house.
That's
wait a minute. No,
that's
wait.
So interesting. I mean, I just can only imagine now what Christmas is like at the
At my house.
at the Chartier household.
Yeah, that's right. No, if it works for a deer, it'll work on a Sasquatch. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do.
So see, we heard from Ray Bands 94. This was again in reference to the John Olson episode. Man, the story where the wife was in bed and had her hair stroked was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would freak me out.
Big time.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
No, thank you.
Let's see, we heard from Payday Creations. And this is in reference to, Montauk. Been there a few different times before. Serious shite went down there. They poured concrete in some openings after a being, that's in exclamation marks, after a being escaped. Most likely creatures from someone's mind.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
They poured concrete. They filled it
They
in
had
with
to
concrete.
seal it up. Yep.
Oh, gosh. I've got to go out there. That sounds like so much fun.
Let's see. I'd like to give a shout out to Christine on Twitter at GoChrissyGo. She had tagged us in a post here. So Greg Newkirk, one of the people behind, also he stars in it, Hellier.
Okay.
So he said, while I'm talking Hellier, we're prepping press kits with early screenings of the second season. What podcasts, websites, vlogs, people would you like to cover? Like to cover Hellier too. And Christine threw our name in there.
Yep.
Wow.
She says, I'm new to podcasts, but I've recently enjoyed P-Punchers. I think they would really dig Hellier. So thank you.
Yeah.
And hey, Greg, if you're listening, yeah. Yeah, totally. We would love to check out Hellier too and give our review and whatnot. So that would be awesome.
That would be fantastic.
All right, so I'll end feedback there. We have a couple stories. We're going to save them for the second half. Now, we're going to jump into our main topic, the Ouija board. So, as usual, this is where I kick it over to my wonderful wife, Alicia. Take it away.
All right. So the Ouija board, that's basically the brand name. But it's basically a spirit board or talking board, I think other people have talked about. It's a flat board marked with the letters of the alphabet and the numbers 0 through 9. And the words yes, no, goodbye. And on some of the boards, it'll say hello as well. They usually, not usually, it has a small heart-shaped piece of wood or plastic, which they call a planchette. And you place your fingers on the planchette and move it around the board to spell out words or put numbers.
Well, you're not moving around the board.
No?
Spirit is.
Well,
Spirit.
yes.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's recommended for players over the age of 8, is what I found.
8.
Yes.
Okay.
That's pretty young.
So you need to be 8 years old to contact spirits.
Yes.
Okay.
Just so we're all on the same page.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So the first patent for a board was put in 1854, and it was called a psychograph.
Psychograph. That's an awesome name.
Yeah. It was supposed to read the minds of people with nervous energy.
Huh.
Okay. So part of this spiritualist movement, it began in like the 1850s or whatever, and everybody was kind of obsessed with trying to reach the spirit world.
Okay.
And a lot of mediums, they would use like table turning, which the tables would rattle whenever they would like give it a letter, and it would rattle if that was the letter that the ghost wanted. And then they also used a planchette with just pencils that were attached to it, and so then the spirit would spell out a word on a piece of paper or whatever.
Oh, so it would actually like draw the letters or something like that?
Yeah. So both of these methods were very difficult, time-consuming.
Right.
And it's hard to read, I'm assuming, the letters on the paper because...
Right. Well, that was like in the 1800s, and they're contacted spirits. What some of the spirits didn't know how to read or write. You're
Right.
like, now you're asking me to write down, and they're like, Just make it squeal.
I'm just thinking that it's hard right now when you sign your name with a mouse on the computer, and they're asking spirits, in the 1850s to do this.
No, because you practically can't. It takes you forever just to make the M of my name.
Right. And then just like a little nugget of information, the planchette was actually named after a French medium named M. Planchette, which is why it's called a planchette.
Okay.
Did he invent the planchette?
I believe so, and maybe used it. I didn't even delve into like what,
how or why he created that thing.
I wondered why it was called a planchette.
Yeah, it's named after this one
instead
medium.
of like a triangle or a heart, because that's got it has the shape.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So then in 1890, Elijah Bond, who was like a businessman, he had an idea to patent a planchette sold with a board on which the alphabet was printed on it. Kind of like some of the previous talking boards, but not quite the same thing.
Okay.
So he actually was using this board before he even got a patent or anything. And he learned that it wanted to be named Ouija, because that's what or Ouija. How do we say it? How are we saying this?
Ouija?
Ouija.
Yeah, I'm going to go Ouija.
Ouija.
Yeah.
Anybody, if we're wrong? Yeah, that's never happened.
It's not like we've
know.
never heard
I
pronounced things
know.
incorrectly.
So yeah, he was using the board, and the Ouija told him that it wanted to be spelled Ouija, and that it was an ancient Egyptian word meaning good luck. Yeah.
I found this this in an article, like 1891. It was the first newspaper advertisements started popping up, and it was like Ouija, the wonderful talking board. And the ad described a magical device that answered questions about the past, present, and future with marvelous accuracy. The ad also promised never failing amusement and recreation for all the classes. A link between the known and the unknown. And coming in at $1.50.
I know, it was
to get
so
your
cheap.
Ouija board.
I know, and actually, I think they were made out of like wood and stuff like that before. Like now, it's cardboard, but anyway, when he was going in to get the patent, he knew that he wasn't going to be able to get it unless he could prove that the board worked. So he was in there with, I think, his sister, who was kind of like a medium, with the chief patent officer, and they all sat down, communed with the spirits, and the planchette faithfully spelled out his name. That's what he wanted. He was like, if you're going to prove this to me, it needs to spell my name perfectly. And it did. Whether or not it was the spirits that are actually doing it or Bond, he was a patent attorney as well. Patent attorney. I can't talk.
I was like, patent eternity?
Yeah, sorry.
He gets patents for life?
I can't talk. A patent attorney. So he may have actually already known the guy's name.
Right.
So who knows? But on February 10th, 1891, a white-faced and visibly shaken patent officer awarded Bond a patent for his new toy or game.
So he had to do this in front of the patent officer?
Yeah. Yeah, to prove that it actually worked.
Wow.
That's how he was getting the patent.
I feel that's kind of hardcore.
Right?
Yeah. Contact his spirit. Now, thank you, or this isn't going to happen today.
So he was in charge of this for a while, and then one of his employees, William Fold, he actually took over the production of the talking boards.
Dramatic pause,
I know.
right? There's something big coming after that dramatic pause.
Bond, he was saying that, the board told him what it wanted its name to be, Ouija. Fold, actually, he tried to change that to the point where he was like, it's a combination of the French and German words for yes.
We and Joe.
Ouija, yeah.
Yeah.
both of those things are out there. Who knows, like, which one is true? I kind of like the first one personally, but
So it was in like an Egyptian spirit or something like that?
yeah.
That was...
And I think I found something about, like, that word actually isn't in, like, it doesn't mean that. So, I'm not really sure. But
Well, I'm just thinking that if it was an Egyptian spirit and it's not like a Egyptian-based word, I don't know. The idea of the Egyptian spirit coming back and communing through this board in front of a patent officer
right.
is pretty.
Yeah.
Wow,
Right.
that's
Pretty ballsy though.
yeah,
You needed to demand the spirit show up because I need to
Right.
get a patent.
right. And by the way,
and luckily
do it now.
it worked.
Right.
Yeah. So in the 1920s, like, the Ouija board, like, skyrocketed in popularity. Everybody was using them. And even he would actually consult the Ouija on a regular basis for, like, his business, like the matters of, like, what he was going to do. And at one point, the Ouija board told him to prepare for big business. So he took its advice and he built this huge factory. And, well, some of my notes say that he eventually fell and died from this factory, from the roof. But,
No.
yeah, in 1927. So it was a little bit later. But he would go on to design many different versions of the board. And he holds, like, 21 patent registrations in 3 different countries. And he even, at a certain point, he was suing other companies that were trying to make their
board.
own. Yeah. And he was like, no, this is mine. But, so yeah, he fell and died in 1927. And in 1966, his estate sold the business to Parker Brothers, which manufactured and made the modern boards that we kind of know today.
Right.
And then in 91, Parker Brothers sold to Hasbro. So Hasbro is the one that has it now.
So I have a couple stats here that this was so popular in 1922. Like, it was so common for every household to have the Ouija. It outsold Monopoly. Mm-hmm. It was that popular, recording about 3 million boards sold in 1922.
Wow. Holy moly.
Right?
That's
it's just
crazy.
interesting that in that time period, like, spiritualism was a huge movement.
Oh, yeah.
And people were just sitting around, playing this game, and it was no big deal. Like, this is going back I'll go back to 1862. But Mary Todd Lincoln,
Right.
she had seances and used a talking board after her 11-year-old son died in 1862. Also, a lot of people, because of the Civil War, people were using the talking boards. Because they wanted to try to reconnect with, family members that
passed on.
lost their lives in the Civil War. But even, like, just talking, like, getting in the 1900s, of people just, you come over to hang out and
Break out the board.
Well, I feel like, I don't know, it's just interesting. They seem to be a little bit more open
Yeah.
to talking to the dead. Mm-hmm. Or, I don't know, it doesn't seem like that. Or we just, we have so many things that distract us that
Right.
Was that one of like the first distractions?
Maybe.
Because that was pre.
the first iPad.
Yeah, because it was basically. I mean, of course there was no internet, but there was no TV, there was no phones, there was none of that.
Yeah, what do you guys want to do tonight? I don't know. Let's talk with the dead.
Let's talk to each other, or have some friends over, or talk with someone who can't see.
Yeah, and then Nash shows up like, we'll just talk to the dead.
We'll talk to the dead.
Yeah.
That's fine. They're not going anywhere.
I have a few people that they used the Ouija board and created, like, books and things like that based on what they learned from the spirit world.
Okay.
Emily Grant Hutchings, she wrote a novel, Jap Heron, a novel, and she said that it was dictated by Mark Twain's spirit by using the Ouija board.
So what?
Yeah, so she wrote this book, but she said that it was Mark Twain's ghost that basically wrote it. So,
Man, I'm working on a book right now. I wonder if we should break out because Mark Twain, like, seriously, dude, you could probably help me. I'm hitting writer's block at the moment.
So if Mark Twain dictated this book, via a Ouija board.
It probably took a while, but
I was going to say, how long would it take to do this book?
Yeah. I mean, when you're doing one letter, yeah.
One letter per, like every 5-10 seconds or something like that?
Right.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I guess they had plenty of time back in the day. They weren't really doing much else. Yeah.
Yeah. There was another author, Pearl Lenore Curran. She said that she was using a Ouija board for like over 20 years and was in contact with one spirit whose name was Patience Worth. And she produced several novels and poetry and things of that nature based on her conversations with patients.
Wow.
Now, let's jump into some of the weird, because I know some people believe, some people don't. But I feel like, we were talking about this the other day, Lish, that The Exorcist really kind of helped kick off the fact that people were like, oh, don't mess with that Ouija board.
Yeah, that came out in 1973. And I feel like before that time, everybody just thought of this as like a game to contact the spirit world. There was nothing like malevolent. But once that movie came out, everybody's mind, like they all changed. They were like, oh, you could be possessed as well, maybe.
Well, there's rules. There's rules to the Ouija board. And I have a clip from the official paranormal psychic medium, paranormal puncher psychic medium, Rhonda Del Baccio. She really explains the Ouija board, I think, in a really great way. But I'm saving that. But some of the rules, never ask when you're going to die.
Yep.
That seems like...
Right.
I mean, I don't know if would you ask?
I don't think I'd want
Would you want to know when you're going to die? It just doesn't. It seems like a question like, don't ask that.
Okay.
Never play alone.
Okay.
Never talk about God.
All right.
Don't know. This is just some of the rules that came up. There's some other rules. Here's again, this seems like, probably shouldn't do this. Don't use it in a cemetery.
Yeah.
I imagine if there's spirits speaking through there and coming through, they're going to have like a choke point. They're going to have a lot of people trying to get through all at once, so it's going to be all garbled. Could do some crazy stuff in a cemetery. I can imagine what it might unleash. Right?
And one that's, again, like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Don't use it in your own home.
Yeah.
Huh.
Right? Because if you are contacting something, this is a place. This is your place of peace. This is where you can relax and want to go to bed. Maybe you don't want to invite something in your house. So maybe you go to your neighbors.
Yeah, but at least you want to go hang out with people you don't really like.
Yeah.
Nice. For the next Tupperware party, go to somebody else's house and hey, I just brought this with me. Yeah.
Yeah, I had another one. Don't taunt or go to spirit.
Okay.
Like, don't make fun of them. Don't joke with them.
Right.
They don't have a sense of humor?
No, I guess not.
Just straight Q&A.
Yep.
Now, why don't we play what Rhonda really describes this board? Because what's interesting is I feel like the board itself, it's just cardboard. Or back, like you said, it used to be made out of real wood. But you could also like draw these letters on paper and make a planchette yourself.
Right.
Like there's so many ways that you can make a Ouija board. In fact, we ran into the Reverend Tim Shaw a couple years ago at the Paracon convention in Gettysburg. And he has a collection of Ouija boards. Sometimes people will bring them to him, number one, to get rid of.
Right.
Because they've had some bad experiences. So he'll cleanse them and add them to his collection. So it's kind of like, well, if it's something made by Parker Brothers and it's just a game for ages 8 and up,
Right.
I feel like the board itself carries zero power.
Right.
There's nothing to it. It's just a novelty.
Right.
The person using it and how you open yourself up.
Kind of like
Maybe the board,
it's like
the
a
board
tool.
is allowing you to really like, if you're really getting into it and you're opening yourself up to the point where something could take notice.
Right.
creates like a focal point for your energy to be able to bring something
Yeah.
and bring it into you or into your home.
Yeah, so here, let's listen to how Rhonda Del Baccio, how she describes this. Ready? Here we go.
So here's the thing with spirit boards, Ouija boards, spirit boards. It's really easy for anyone wandering spirit, good, bad, the ugly, the gorgeous, or whatever, to attach, because what you're basically doing is, remember I had that analogy of you're in a foreign country and you're invisible? Well, now you have this Ouija board, which is kind of like a universal translator. Okay, so now that's going, hey, I'm here. I just put out a big old sign that I'm here. And so now you have just opened yourself up to anything. And for most people, you just kind of go, is anybody here? Which is just like, oh, that just really gets me, because now you're like demon, angel, non-corporeal, gray, alien, whatever, anything, just come out in and communicate, and you've just opened a door, and things are going, whoa, something actually knows we're here, yeah, baby. And so something will come in and decide to start talking to you. All right, now, that is not necessarily a good thing. It seems like in this particular instance, you probably don't have anything heinous.
Okay, that was a clip chunked out of the advice she gave to Scared in Ohio. But I really like how she explained the board, like a big old sign.
Yeah.
And so you don't know who
You're just shouting with a megaphone.
you're attracting.
Yeah.
I like how she even threw in the Greys,
Yeah.
which I feel like that's a whole nother episode. Just to like, wait, you're telling me that even with the Ouija board, aliens could just be messing with us back?
Oh, jeez.
I mean, I guess it could be not just...
I mean, they might have like telekinesis.
That's what I was thinking,
abilities.
like a telepathic nature, and they're picking up on the same thing. Huh? I didn't think about the Greys. That's different. That makes sense.
So, Scared in Ohio, he had played this the Ouija board with his daughter. Mm-hmm. She got freaked out, and she ran away. He never closed the session, which is one of the rules.
Always
say goodbye.
Yep.
You say goodbye, even if you're like, this is going bad. Say goodbye, close the session.
Right.
He forgot, and then he had, it seemed to him like a spirit of a little girl run around his house,
Right.
and even had conversation with it because he thought it was his daughter, but it wasn't. He opened the door, nothing was there.
Wow.
That's pretty freaky.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a little piece out of the advice that Rhonda gave Scared in Ohio, who did take her advice and hasn't had any issues since.
Right.
Very nice.
But again, that was the story that led us to this topic. So now, I've used a Ouija board once in my life, back in the day, in my buddy's house. We broke every single rule. We did. We used it in his house.
Yeah.
The absolute first question we ask is which one of us is going to die first.
Oh, shoot.
We were idiots. I think we might have also been smoking something. I can't remember. And I remember the planchette moving around, and I went to the letter D, one of our friends, Dan, the three of us, Dan, Brandy, and me. But we were like, whoa, I know Dan was freaked out, but I'm pretty sure Brandy and I were doing that. And then we just laughed, threw the board into the closet, and then we
Didn't close anything.
we didn't close anything. I think we jumped in the car and we went to band practice.
Yeah.
Band is in because we were in a hair metal band.
Not.
So we did, we did absolutely every single thing wrong.
Okay.
But nothing really came of it. I don't know, because we did it in Brandy's house, if he ever had crazy things going on. He never told me. But some people have had some really bad experiences.
Oh, yeah.
After using the Ouija board.
Yes, very bad. And before we get on some of those, I'm gonna give you a rebuttal, Mark.
You're gonna give me a rebuttal?
Yes, because you have told us a couple of different times how you've seen something in the night upstairs.
Yeah.
Or you have left a place and a ghost has followed you.
Right.
I don't know
Even
if they're
that
related.
one medium said I had three spirits.
That's
following me.
exactly correct. That's on.
Are you saying I thought nothing happened from my Ouija board session,
maybe,
but I let something attach itself to me?
and maybe you haven't been aware of it because you haven't really been sensitive to it at that point in your life, but now you're becoming more aware of it. So you're starting to realize that these things have been there. I don't know. We might need to just open a session and close the session really quick.
Oh, yeah. Well, Rana's going to be on an upcoming episode.
Yeah.
Well, she's going to read your fortune.
Yep.
Maybe we'll ask her, like, did I mess up?
Did I mess up? What did we do? Wow.
Liz, do you have any stories about
I do.
when things go wrong?
Yeah. A lot of the stories that I came across, it was people that were at, like, slumber parties. This is something that a lot of, like, teenagers do.
Okay.
But so there was a group that was using it in their friend's dorm room. And they had one of the people that were there, they were a skeptic. And so, like, the whole time they were like, this is bull crap. And then they even said, like, to the spirit, like, you need to prove this. This is real. Like, you guys aren't just doing this. And as soon as he finished saying, prove it, the lights flickered and then the fire alarm went off. So they all left the building. They were kind of freaked out, obviously, because this happened, like, right after that. But when they came back up, like, 10 minutes later, the board was gone.
Just completely gone.
It was gone. They didn't take it. They didn't move it or anything. They just came back and it was out of their room. So that's weird,
That's
right?
big time weird.
There was a slumber party where they were taking turns asking it questions. And then there was a question that was answered, but that, like, nobody else but that one person would know. So that freaked him out because it came out, like, they answered it correctly.
Yeah.
Then they heard footsteps that were above them, but they were on the top floor. So they're not really sure where those footsteps were coming from.
Okay.
And then their door kept swinging open on its own. And that it had never done that before. So they were like, okay, this is really weird. Now, a coworker of mine, she said that she used the Ouija board when she was like a teenager, long time ago,
Sure.
with some friends. It was her and another girl, and then I think a couple guys that were there. But they were jokingly around, like, being like, "Oh, we should call,
It's one of the rules.
Yeah, Jack the
No
Ripper."
joking.
Yeah, they were trying to call, like, these murderers forward.
Well, that's it. That just sounds terrible. A terrible idea.
I know. So, like, the whole time they kept getting, like, cold, like, spots or whatever that would, like, come over them. And then at one point they felt like a hand encircling their necks with a little pressure. And at one point the planchette, actually neither one of them were touching it. It moved on its own.
This is your coworker?
Yep.
Has she touched the Ouija board since?
I don't think so.
Please tell me she closed the session. Please tell me
you know what? She didn't say.
That would be, go
Yeah.
back and ask.
Yeah. I'm going to have to.
Maybe this could be a side business. You know?
We close boards?
Yeah, for just a nominal fee. We go when we find these stories, and then we just open a session and close the session. That'll be $35, please.
Yeah, paranormal punchers.
Paranormal punchers.
Have you forgotten to close your board? Are there strange things happening around your house?
Give us a call.
Yeah.
We'll come. We'll close that board. Goodbye.
There's one other story that I thought was kind of interesting. This 9-year-old, I guess he got a Ouija board for his birthday. And him, his sister, and his mom, they decided to get the board out and just kind of play with it.
Okay.
And during the session, they asked the spirit to spell out its name, and it spelled out George, or he couldn't remember the actual name, but George is the one he was using. He asked where the spirit had died, and it said in a lake. Now, this really freaked out his mom.
Georgie Lake. I'm like, if it
No.
says we all float down here.
Now, his mom started freaking out, so they ended up closing the session and everything. And she was freaking out because one of her good friends, his name was George, and he had disappeared a couple weeks before.
Oh, wow.
So she was just kind of like freaking out. Not even like a week after they used the board, they found his body in a lake.
Oh, no.
Isn't that creepy?
Oh,
Yeah.
yikes.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So the stories that I came across
Okay, go for it.
were a little worse than that.
Oh.
So these were, if there's any young listeners out there, these get a little bit more rough. Okay. So there is, now this is.
But if you're 8 years old, you can play the Ouija board, so.
Right.
Yeah. So this happened back in 2001, February of 2001. There was an Oklahoma resident. Her name is Carol Sue. She had no criminal record and no history of mental health problems. So if you ever read a story and it starts with that, it's not going to go well. Just listeners, just know that. Okay. So back in February of 2001, she killed her son-in-law, Brian, but she did claim that she had recently used a Ouija board, which she said sent her a message from the beyond that her daughter's husband was possessed by an evil spirit and must be murdered. So she did. So after stabbing him while he slept, she turned on her own family, bundled up her own daughter and granddaughter into her car in an attempt to kill them all in a car crash. Oh, wow. Thankfully, they didn't pass, but Carol Sue suffered 2 broken ankles, which didn't stop her from stripping naked and running into the woods like a crazy person. She claimed that the evil spirit that was in Brian had possessed her instead. She was later ruled to be insane in what quickly became known as the Oklahoma Ouija board murder.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So that don't do that.
No.
I've got another one from 1977. A guy named Gary was sentenced to death after he confessed to the murder of 2 men in Utah in 1977. His excuse was a little bit more unique than most. He claims his mother, Bessie, made contact one night with a demon via a Ouija board, which had cursed his entire family with misfortune. Gary's aunt was seriously paralyzed. Another aunt was killed. Bessie's mother-in-law, Faye, held a seance to get to the bottom of the supernatural shenanigans and wound up half crazy. Uh-oh. Bessie claimed that later that same night, she woke up with an otherworldly thing beside her in bed, at which point Faye entered the room and screamed, "It knows who you are," she was screaming.
Oh, God. Gary's
nightmares started at a young age, and he levels all his murderous behaviors on his own at the family demon. Gary's nightmares started at a young age, and he says that all of his murderous behavior got turned to his family demon and from that demon himself. He was executed in 77 by a firing squad.
Wow.
Yeah, not good. So, I mean, I could keep going. I've got one where a young daughter, 15-year-old daughter was driven to kill her father. Oof. After using a Ouija board. I have another story where the Ouija board drove more people to murders and then animated a doll. So that when they all left the room after saying, "Oh my God, this is happening, we got to get out of here," there was a doll that was standing up on its own 2 feet in the living room when it went down in the living room. But the story that I like the most, which is most interesting, is it was just a couple years back in 2014. A Durham resident, his name is Paul, didn't think anything of using a Ouija board on Christmas Eve in 2014, using it to try to contact the dead. It worked out. Yeah. Let's see. Paul said an evil spirit subsequently entered the family dog, Molly. So
it possessed the dog?
It possessed the dog. So Paul thought, you know what? The best course of action was? So he drowned the dog.
What?
Yeah, so he drowned the dog, then chopped it up and dumped it into the drain.
Come on now.
I'm done. Paul, who had a few learning disabilities, was covered and was discovered and eventually arrested, charged and giving a suspended sentence. But the story doesn't end there. Just 1 week after Paul's guilty plea, his wife Margaret and her daughter Katrina used the same Ouija board. This time the board told them that they were going to die. The following day, both mother and daughter took an overdose of drugs and set their house on fire. Surviving the blaze, Margaret and Katrina were jailed for 4 years for arson, despite their claims the Ouija board made them do it.
Huh.
Wow.
So there's a lot of oddball stuff that goes with using Ouija boards and releasing these spirits, and kind of the madness that ensues after the using of these Ouija boards.
Yeah.
I got one here about a cop that was called to a cemetery.
Oh no!
Car 78, come in. Over. Dispatch. This is 78. Over. Car 78. We received several calls about noises and commotion on the Primrose Cemetery. I need you to roll out and investigate. Write and report. Oh, and congratulations on making the force. Over. So this guy's like one of his first assignments.
Oh, he's fresh.
Oh, man.
He's fresh
Poor
on the
bud.
force.
Wow.
He's got to head out to the cemetery. So he gets out there and gets out of his car. He starts walking up and he sees somebody had set up a card table.
Okay.
And on this card table, they had some candles and a Ouija board.
In a cemetery.
In a cemetery.
Of course.
Okay.
So he's looking around. He can't find anybody. And he starts getting hit with this smell. And along one of the wrought iron fences, the cemetery, he sees like guts and brains and blood, tattered clothes, almost like something just shredded somebody and threw him against this gate.
Wow.
And he was like, it was disgusting, hard to fight back. Vomiting, wasn't sure what was going on. They called the coroner. The coroner came in, and the coroner was talking about, the cemetery, there's some really bad stuff, bad people that were buried here. But the coroner did say, so the cop was like, to the coroner, so you're telling me ghosts did this? So no, I'm telling you, a very dark and very evil entity did this. It hasn't been the first time, and will probably not be the last.
What?
As long as kids come here to play with those damn spirit boards, they will keep dying.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh.
So you go to a cemetery where possibly like some really just not good people are buried,
And you pull out a Ouija
and you're
board.
and you're yeah. But now again, the story doesn't explain anything about the autopsy or anything, but they just found these kids shredded and thrown all over this fence.
Wow.
That's horrific.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, from what I'm gathering from the stories that we found, so it sounds like, just make sure you close that session, follow the rules, and at best, you're going to get screwed with pretty hard.
Well,
At best.
see, these kids with the way they found them, one particular entity has popped up a lot of times in people playing with the spirit board.
Okay.
That would be Zozo.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you heard of Zozo?
A little bit. I came across Zozo in my research, but I focus on the stories and not on
Yeah.
any one specific.
Now, I had to look up with Zozo. Now, this guy has a story where he was using the board, and this Zozo entity came up, and his life just started to become a wreck
Yeah.
from this entity. So I was like, well, what is Zozo? This is all I could find. Supposedly, it's a 3-headed dog demon which guards the gates of hell.
What?
It has a tattoo on his forehead that spells Zoso. Zozo is a term Aleister Crowley claimed meant 666. Jimmy Page used Zoso as a symbol on his Led Zeppelin album.
Wow.
So, yeah. A 3-headed demon dog.
Now, there was I'm thinking Greek.
And then they say here, is Zozo the devil himself? Or a wayward demon who has the power to manifest itself wherever and whenever it is called?
Huh.
Here's if you're messing with a spirit board, here's the signs that say look for that you need to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Because this is Zozo's MO. So the planchette will move in a rainbow pattern from side to side, pointing to O and a Z over and over again. So you get Zozo. The planchette will move in a repeated figure 8.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The planchette will spell out any version of Zozo. Watch out for ZOZO, ZOSO, ZAZA, and Mama.
And Mama?
Weird.
MAMA. Right, because some people like be like, "Oh, Mama, oh, we're communicating with
Right.
Mom."
Oh.
That could be Zozo. Something when if Zozo starts to mess around with you while you're using the Ouija board, it's said that you might see what looks like shadows moving around the area you're playing in. Mm-mm. And whoever you're playing with will start to feel scared, uneasy, or upset. Oof. And any of those, you're supposed to immediately say goodbye.
Right.
And be done with that.
Close the session and get out of there.
Yep.
Now, you said Aleister Crowley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he actually was a notable user of the Ouija board.
Wow. Holy moly. Wow. So the Ouija board's been all over the world. I mean, it's everywhere. People have been doing this kind of craziness for a while. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not going to be in my house. No.
Nope, not mine.
No. Wow.
Why don't we take a quick break and we'll come back with more planchette fun.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Campfire. We're your hosts of the Creepy Campfire podcast, Ryan and Jordan.
We've got UFO sightings, Bigfoot, creepy ghost ships, you name it.
We got it. You can find us on any of your podcast providers, so come on in and join the Campfire. Stay toasty.
And we're back. All right. Great conversation so far about the Ouija. Oh, yeah. That's the way I'm saying it.
The Ouija.
Ouija. I'm sure we said it 5 different ways so far.
Probably.
Yeah.
Liz, you have some more stuff, and you even have a couple things from the science community.
Yes. So I wanted to bring up that, like in the 1920s, and I'm sure since then, people have actually used a Ouija board to try to find clues to solve like an unsolved mystery, a murder or whatever. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And in 1994, convicted murderer Stephen Young, he was granted a retrial because they found out that 4 of the jurors had conducted a Ouija board session and had contacted the murdered man, and he named Young as his killer. So obviously they were like, we can't use these.
Yeah, it's not really credible.
So I thought that was kind of interesting, like people using it to try to figure out like how, like what happened to you? Can we solve this? Now the scientific community, they have harshly criticized the Ouija board, and they consider it to be the result of ideomotor response. So basically, we all have our conscious thought. We're thinking about this. And what they're saying is like we don't even know that we're moving the planchette. It's a
like a subconscious thing.
Yeah, it's non-conscious thought. So we don't even know we're doing it. And if people are like, "Are you moving it?" And they're like, "No, I'm not." It's because you actually don't realize you are, but you are. So that's where they stand on this, but
kind of similar to when you're driving your car and you look to the right and your steering wheel moves to the right a little bit. You look to the left and it moves to the left a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't think that you're doing it, but your hand still does it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's what they're trying to.
All right. That's what it is. Right. Yeah. Even though you're thinking like, I don't do that. And then you look over and all of a sudden the car kind of shifts a little bit to the right. The same thing. Huh.
Yeah. So that's where they stand on it. They're like, this is all like in your own mind. You just don't know you're doing it. But
Nash, where do you lie personally on the whole concept of the Ouija board?
I believe it. I think it's a focal point. I really do. I mean, I've used one like most people back in the day. And was I pushing it around? Yeah, I think I was.
Okay.
You know, do I think that it can be used without actually touching the planchette and it moving? I think it could be.
Yeah.
There, to have multiple people around, focus on the same thing and the same goal, doing the exact same thing is not just like for one person to think, okay, well, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to try to force myself to become more sensitive to the other side. That's extremely difficult. Mm-hmm. But for 2, 3, or 4 people to be focusing on the same thing and doing the exact same thing of all the same purpose, well, that much extra energy going into that amplifies the receptor of that energy, which is the board itself. So I just see it as a focal point. I think there is something there.
Yeah.
So the board has zero power.
I don't think it's empowered at all.
Using it,
or the group of people,
they're allowing themselves to be open.
Correct.
So the board just becomes a tool.
Yeah, it's like a magnifying glass. Just like a magnifying glass under the sun.
Right.
You know, it's just bringing, it's coalescing all these different energies into one tight focal spot, which then is getting through to be able to communicate.
Right.
And I'm like I said, I dabbled with it once. Have no feelings either way because I don't think I would ever do a session to find out.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I just feel like whether you believe or don't believe, if you mess with it, just follow those simple rules.
Right.
Do the instructions,
you know, because if you don't believe in it, I think it's better safe than sorry.
Yep.
Just in case that if you treat it with such disrespect, you find out you were wrong.
Right.
And you followed 0 rules, and now Zozo is your bunkmate.
Right, exactly.
So that would be awful.
It's stroking your hair when you go to bed.
Right? Lish, what about you?
No, I think that there might be some truth to what the scientific community is saying. But I also believe that when you personally believe or open yourself up to some of the weird stuff out there, I feel like you can kind of be like I liked your what's the word? Magnifying glass. Like
it focuses it all together.
Exactly, and I think that's what you end up becoming, like the. I've lost all the words.
No, it's like when you go to the.
You become the magnifying glass.
Basically,
more or less,
yeah. Thank you.
Instead of having, it's like when you get on an airplane, you know, you can't bring a big bottle of Jack Daniels with me, but you can have a lot of the little travel guys.
Right.
And you have 10 of those little travel guys, and it's equivalent to a big old bottle.
Okay.
Yeah, that your analogy right there was great.
Right. we need a new shirt, everybody. Come on, let's do this.
This is my travel size.
Mini bottle travel size.
We had Nash theories or Nash sayings.
Nashisms.
Nashisms. There you go. Now, that was an absolutely great topic. I would like to end the topic with a listener story about experience with the Ouija board. I think it really could just put a cap on this.
Okay.
So, Lish, take it away.
All right, and this is from Andy. All right. Listening to Scared in Ohio reminded me of a story that my mom told me about the first and only time she ever used a Ouija board. She lived on a dairy farm in Idaho, and her room was in the basement with one ground level window. It also happened to be right across the street from the town cemetery, but that's a different story. One Friday, after school, she and a friend who was staying with her for the weekend were on their way home when they came across a yard sale. They stopped and looked around, and among some games was a Ouija board. This board was a heavily detailed wooden board with an ivory planchette, and best of all, it was super cheap. My mom and her friend bought it thinking it was cool looking and would be a fun game to play during their sleepover. That night, they opened the Ouija board and played it. They asked silly questions like, were you cute when you were alive? And do you think I'm cute? When they were finally tired, they put the board away in the closet. When they woke up in the morning, the board was open and set up on the floor right where they had been playing it. They thought it was weird, but just came to the conclusion that maybe they forgot to put it away. So they put it away together and noted the game was away and the closet was closed, and then went out to help with the farm chores. After breakfast, they went back to my mom's room, and the board was set up again. Not wanting to let her parents know they had a Ouija board in the house, they took the game out to the trash incinerator, threw it in, and watched the flames engulf it. They went about their day and didn't get back until later that evening. When they arrived, the board was back, completely undamaged.
Oh, no.
Very freaked out now, they decided to just not touch the game and deal with it in the morning. That night, they were both having trouble sleeping, so the girls were facing each other in the bed talking. My mom had her back to the window when she said that the room and the blankets got freezing cold, and her friend gasped and stopped talking. She was staring at the ground level window. My mom slowly rolled over and saw the window was completely blocked out with two large, glowing, red eyes. Within seconds, they disappeared, and the girls panicked and ended up sleeping upstairs that night. The next morning, my mom and her friend got the courage to grab the game and look at it. On the box, there was a phone number to a well-known game manufacturer. She called and told the woman on the line what happened, and the woman seemed to not be surprised at all and just plainly said that they couldn't destroy it. They had to give it away. So the next day at school, they decided to give it to somebody who they thought wouldn't try to play it. They told their acquaintance that they thought of her because her father was a woodworker. They never heard anything from the girl about anything weird, and neither of them had any more experiences. So to this day, we all stay away from Ouija boards. Keep being awesome.
Thanks, Andy.
Yikes.
Man.
Thanks. Now, and, one of the rules that I came across, I don't know if I mentioned, I don't think I mentioned it. You can't try to burn it.
Yeah.
Wow. Holy moly.
Yeah, it's actually bad luck for you, I think. One of the rules that I found that, don't burn it. Don't try to burn it. You have to, if you're having issues with it, you almost have to keep the board and the planchette stored somewhere separately from each other. Yeah.
Crazy.
Right.
Holy moly. Oh, my gosh. It reminded me, as you were saying that, it reminded me of, I was thinking the whole time, I'm thinking, this is just like Jumanji.
Yeah, well, no, even like when she called the hotline number.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you need to give that to somebody else. You need to pass the curse.
Right.
I'm like, wow.
Wow, just get rid of it. But I'm wondering, they never told her just to say goodbye and try to close the session or something
No,
like that.
just pass the curse.
Just
Yeah,
get it.
just
Get rid of
pass it on.
Put a big free sign and put it on your driveway.
Right.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Now, we have another story from Indiana Johnny. This time, we're going to talk about Shadow Man. Nash is going to read this one. Do it.
All right. So, hey, guys.
Nice.
Yeah,
Excellent job.
You like that?
Yeah, that was good.
That was from Johnny. You know? I said, I was listening to this week's episode with John Olson and heard you mention shadow people. So I thought I would tell you about a string of experiences I had a couple years ago that started with a shadow man. It was late winter or early spring in 2018. I was living in a condo with two roommates. I had gotten up early that morning for work. I get up around 5 in the morning, and I had gotten cleaned up and dressed and was heading out of my room to go downstairs to grab some breakfast and head out. As I leave my bedroom, I turn off my bedroom lights, close the door, and walk through the dark until I reach the kitchen. My bedroom was on the second floor with the other two bedrooms. Directly at the bottom of the staircase was the front door. On the left side of the door was a skinny frosted glass window that only ran along the top half of the door. Thanks to the streetlights that were on either side of our street, there was always light shining into that window. As I descended the stairs that morning, my eyes automatically turned to the small window like they did every single morning. But this morning, there was something in the window that wasn't usually there. It was the silhouette of a man's face and head, and it looked like it was wearing a fedora and looking right at me through the frosted glass. As soon as I saw the shadow, it seemed to know I was staring at it and backed out of the window. I stopped and stood still for a minute or two to listen for the person run off. When I stepped outside, I saw no signs that a person had ever been there. A couple of weeks later, with that memory still fresh in my head, I stepped out of my bedroom one morning. As I closed my door behind me, I heard a deep, guttural sort of demonic growl. directly in my right ear, almost as though it came from a mouth that was right up against my ear. I froze and turned to look in the direction it had come from. All that was there was my roommate's door, which was also closed. Nothing else happened until later that July. My roommate and I had moved to a different condo that was about 3 or 4 miles away in a different neighborhood. One morning, I walked downstairs to head to work. The front window was open so I could see outside. It was very humid in the morning, and the window was very foggy. There was a streetlight directly out in front that was very bright and lit up the parking lot with an orange light. When I looked out the window, I saw a man leaning on the hood of a car. He was dressed in a 1950s fashion with a white T-shirt that was tucked into a pair of blue jeans. The strange thing was that while the rest of the parking lot was lit with orange light, he seemed to be lit with white light. I had a feeling that it might be paranormal, but I didn't feel scared, just peaceful instead. I wanted to check and see if it was the person out. I wanted to check and see if it was just a person out there. I walked over to the door and opened it. When I did, the man was gone. When I looked out the window, he was gone from the window as well. Aside from that time, I saw a demon crawling along the wall of a church in Jasper, Indiana. What? Sorry. These are the craziest things I've ever witnessed with my own 2 eyes.
Wow.
Oh, holy moly, Johnny.
Thanks, Indiana Johnny.
Yeah.
But, okay. 2 things. First, to address the story. Why does it seem like these shadow men are wearing hats?
Yeah.
Because that's how my shadow man looked.
Mm-hmm.
They had hats? Like a fedora?
Yeah, I mean, I don't always describe it as fedora, but it seemed like it had a hat on.
Huh.
So that's weird. But the elephant in the room is like, you saw a demon climbing across the wall?
Yeah, you totally buried the lead on this demon thing till the very end.
Oh, my God.
What? A demon crawling on the wall?
I mean, we need to hear that story, dude.
Oh, my gosh. So Shadow Man, guys wearing a fedora, and he sees some dude outside, okay. And then he just happened to look over on the wall, and there's a demon crawling around. What?
Thank you so much for sharing your stories, Andy and Johnny. If you would like to send your stories to us, just go to paranormalpunchers.com. You'll find our contact page, or you just send it straight to paranormalpunchers@gmail.com. We certainly love your stories.
Definitely. Thank you.
Wow. Anything else on this topic or their stories before we say goodbye?
Yeah, and close the session. Yeah, that's the only I have in my head. If we're talking about Ouija boards, we have to close the session.
Heck yeah. There's a bunch of movies out there. We just watched one like a few weekends ago called Ouija Board. Mm-hmm. It was out of the 80s. Not bad, but not great. There's Ouija. There's one, it's an indie film, super low budget, called The Ouija Experiment. I kind of liked it because it was like basically just filmed in the dude's house.
Yeah.
Okay.
I always enjoy whether they're good or bad. Just as somebody's like, I'm just going to make a movie. I'm going to go for it. And, well, it's on Amazon, so it's far more than my movies have got.
Yeah.
So, that's one to check out. It's called The Ouija Experiment.
Okay.
It's all right.
Yeah.
You just got to look at it as like this dude got his friends together and made a movie. It's pretty badass.
Nice.
I know the Paranormal Activity movies, they deal with the Ouija board a little bit.
They do? I can't remember.
Yeah, like they had all the cameras around, and they would go to bed or whatever, but leave the Ouija board out, and the planchette would move.
Oh, yeah, the first one. Didn't it catch on fire?
It caught on fire, but... and then there's, of course, the Ouija movies, which Ouija Origin of Evil wasn't bad, but...
So check them out if you get a chance.
Yeah, if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah, and Halloween could be coming up, so it might be a good time.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, we have some, we're going to have Rana on for our Halloween episode. We're going to talk about Sam Hain.
Yep.
She's going to do a reading.
Yeah.
Just on Nash.
That's right. That's right.
or maybe the rest of us, I don't know.
We'll see.
It should be a good time.
It could involve everybody, even though it's just on me. You never know.
Maybe my 3 spirits that are following me will make an appearance.
Yeah.
I hope not. So we are going to close this session.
Yes, definitely.
And we're going to say goodbye to the spirits. And to all of you out there, hit us up, paranormalpunches.com. We want to hear from you. So, like we say around here, if it's not weird,
It's not worth checking out.